Man, sometimes you just want to talk about fighting types. What can I say? And while we talked about the ones that got stronger over time, we never truly talked about the ones that are the absolute strongest. The pinnacle of just how hard a man can punch somebody in the face. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Talking about fighting types that are the best of the best. That aren't super legendaries. Of course, Koraidon, Arceus, and Zamazenta Crown are going to be the best ones. With that out of the way, let's hit the gym. The ones where we work out at, not the ones where we Pokemon battle, and take a look at the beefiest spells in the Pokedex. But before we do, halfway through writing this, I realized I just talked about poison types, and Sneasler is a poison type. I'm omitting it from the video, but it would be number 2 or number 3 on the list if I kept it in. Now, before there ever was Sneasler, there was Hawlucha. Hawlucha and Sneasler do incredibly similar things, being consume their item while setting up a swords dance, and then start blasting through the opponent's team members, because it just can. With the difference being that it's slower, weaker, more frail, and with more weaknesses. Sneasler kind of just outclassed our man in every way, really. What Hawlucha does have over Sneasler is stab acrobatics without the need of a Terra. And hey, that's pretty good. But for what it's worth, Hawlucha isn't particularly bad, thanks to its excellent offensive typing and access to Iron Head or Stone Edge in order to cover what could be a big weakness. It's able to sweep teams just like Sneasler can, albeit it just doesn't do as well thanks to its overall lower stats. Hawlucha, unfortunately, is a victim of power creep, but I still admire it regardless. Recommended Terra, steal to survive a Moonblast, and then use your Iron Head on said fairy. I could just be outright wrong, and maybe Kommo-o deserves to be a slot or 2 higher, but I am not on the agreeing end of that. Clangorous Soul plus Throat Spray is potent and all, but the issue with it is that in order for it to work, you have to either get rid of the opposing fairy, or you have to use your Terra and pray that Boom Burst carries you. Yeah, it sometimes works really well, and sometimes it just doesn't. It's one of those situations where it strangely feels like a matchup fish above all else, where you're hoping your opponent either doesn't have an answer, or their answer just sucks, and then cleaning their team, saying GG easy in the chat, and then leaving before they can tell you that you're lucky. Of course, it's got solid coverage. Iron Head, Clanging Scales, Aura Sphere, and all that good stuff. And that's nice. But that doesn't really change its main game plan, how it works, and why said game plan is a little matchup fishy. But hey, this game plan is good enough to get it on the list, so I respect it. Recommended Terra, normal for stab boom burst. I consider Iron Hands to be a little more consistent than Kommo-o from my personal experiences both using it and playing against it. Every single time I see this guy in team preview, it's always on the forefront of my mind when I queue up for a match. Its ridiculous bulk alongside its natural variety in what item it holds, and what set it could be trying to play, means I'm typically never going to be able to remove this threatening mon in one hit. And it's likely going to one-shot something on my team if I'm not careful, especially if it gets a swords dance up. Combine that with Ice Punch for coverage and Fighting Stab to beat the only type combinations that resist Bolt Beam coverage, and this Pokemon becomes really threatening, and very quickly. Assault Vest, Booster Energy, and Leftovers are the usual items it runs. Recommended Terra, Flying, because you want to dodge Earthquake and then punish the ground type that tried it with a devastating Ice Punch. Look, it's not a video about fire types, fighting types, or how good they are if I don't bring up the fastest chicken in all of the tropical Hoenn lands. However, because you've heard me bring this dude up a decent bit in recent memory, I'm gonna keep this brief. Swords Dance plus Speed Boost, when put on an actual Pokemon with actual stats and actually good moves, is very potent. Close Combat, Blaze Kick / Flare Blitz, Knockoff, Thunder Punch, Protect, Swords Dance, Acrobatics, even if you're trying to play Diet Sneasler with a Terrain Seed and all. This Pokemon can be tailor-made to break through whatever it is your team needs to break through, and it can do so with incredible efficiency. Just don't fight Dondozo with it, or your Blaziken's gonna wind up drowning. Recommended Terra? Smogon recommends Dark, Ground, or Steel, so I believe them. Terra Flying works if you're playing the Diet Sneasler variation though. We should all be very familiar with Iron Valiant by this point. It's been a pretty good Pokemon throughout the entirety of its run through Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, especially in the OU tier of Smogon singles, where it waits for the featured Mon of the video that gets sacked so it can enter the field safely, and then threaten to clean on the spot, assuming we're in the late game. It's probably one of the best late game cleaners to ever live, and is most certainly one of the best in its respective format. It's got a Swords Dance set that takes people not expecting it by surprise, it's got a killer special set, and even good mixed sets. It has amazing sets, and Booster Energy amplifying its speed makes it one of the fastest Pokemon in the game. Even with Iron Boulder rising in prevalence, Iron Valiant remains a solid Pokemon, and will continue to do so long as it can use stuff like Moonblast, Knockoff, Close Combat, Calm Mind, and Thunderbolt. Recommended Terra? Fairy and Dark are two pretty solid ones, I like to think. The Tusk is too great, and there isn't much we can do about it. One thing I've noticed about Great Tusk is that, in a sense, especially when it comes to Gen 9, is just how healthy the metagame is thanks to it. It being there is basically holding the metagame together. When you look at the 4 rapid spinners in OU, you begin to notice that Great Tusk is the most versatile and the most effective at spinning. This, combined with its set variety and the many things it can do for a team, make it an incredible addition in team building, especially with how much of the game that it can cover, depending on your sets. It can set hazards, remove items, or if you play offensive variants, it can remove whole Pokemon. Yet nothing about Great Tusk feels overturned. Nothing about it feels so threatening or ridiculous that you can't play around it. It's got good physical bulk and attack, no special attack, little special defense, and an okay speed at best. There is obvious counterplay to every set, and yet every set is also very good, but not so good to where the Pokemon is broken. Great Tusk is great, and it holds Gen 9 OU together. Recommended Terra? Depends on the set. There are endless possibilities. My opinion that Marshadow is basically physical Darkrai has not changed. If you compare their stats to one another, it becomes abundantly obvious how similar they are in terms of where their stats align. But one does physical attacking and the other does special attacking. Now, what did Marshadow do that made it so broken? Well, stealing setup with Spectral Thief was really solid, especially since it steals the boost before dealing damage, which means that if it catches you Swords Dancing or Dragon Dancing, it's coming for your shoes. Combine this with excellent Fighting Stab, numerous coverage options, and then access to Bulk Up so it could get its own setup going thanks to its speed. Yeah, this Pokemon could not be allowed in the same format as Great Tusk. Actually, I'm now curious. Could Marshadow survive Gen 9 OU? Maybe. Probably. It would probably be good even with Booster Energy around. Only thing I don't get is why the heck it gets Technician as its ability. But I guess Shadow Sneak needed to revenge kill. Recommended Terra if it existed in Gen 9? I don't know. Probably a defensive one to get the bulk ups going. So Water or Fairy. Pheromosa, as we all know, is the embodiment of the Glass Cannon archetype. It's the DPS fighter in your D&D party that can't take a hit for the life of it, but it can chunk the boss's HP at ridiculous speed. Squishy, but they sure pack a wallop. Sure, while it's weak to priority attacks due to their ease of threatening its low defense, this weakness doesn't matter given that you typically have 5 teammates, at least one of which can eat the hit. Beast Boost is broken, no surprise there, and it's got some really solid moves. U-Turn, Close Combat, Blaze Kick, and Triple Axle are nothing to scoff at. Recommended Terra if it was in Gen 9? Don't. Too frail. What is there to say that Wolf Glick, the world champion himself, has not already said about this stupid bear? This bear is a threat to all things that remotely breathe, thanks to its ability to break through any and anything with extreme prejudice. Which version of the bear am I talking about, you may ask? Both. They're both really good thanks to their ability to Terra Water or Dark respectively, and do bajillion damage and ignore Protect in the process. Defense play against these mons is hard, no matter what format you play. Combine this with actually good attack, solid bulk, and good speed, and Urshifu has had to be banned from singles OU, and is on just about every VGC team. Tornadus and Urshifu-Rapid Strike is a VGC staple duo. But what could be more powerful than these two? Well, who else could it be than the entry that was so angry that it ascended from its mortal shell, and despite its own demise, is more powerful than any fighting type that had come before it. Through its sheer bulk and ability to spam Rage Fist, even if some of the fighting types on this list can defeat it, they fear what happens if it is left unchecked. It always finds a way to set up bulk up, and it always takes damage one way or another. The power of its Rage Fist is unparalleled, said to completely annihilate all those who dare approach it callously. There is only one true check to it, and that one true check, Hisui and Zoroark, is frail, niche, and wishes not to ever come in on this Pokemon's partners. Praise be Annihilape, as there is nothing that can withstand its raw power and its raw resilience. That, and in VGC, it goes well with Mousehold. With that out of the way, enough about the strongest fighting types. Which one is your favorite fighting type? My personal favorite? Well, I've got a real attachment to this dude, so I'll be going to use that in whatever tier it's good in, just to feel good about myself.